We have visitors coming from Israel and from Poland, from all over the world. So it's a very exciting time for us to showcase our Toronto Reform Judaism.
The Biennial will benefit from being in Toronto because Toronto is a great Reform community, and it can provide a different vision for many congregants coming from south of the border. I also think it's a wonderful gift for American Reform Jews, of which I am one, to be able to identify and see Reform Jewish life outside the U.S. and recognize its differences.
Jewish immigrants came to Toronto really the middle of the 19th century. By 1849, there were enough Jews in Toronto for them to begin thinking about really the first Jewish institution in most communities was a cemetery. By 1856, you have enough Jews in Toronto to begin thinking about forming a congregation for Rosh Hashanah services. They become the first Jewish congregation west of Montreal. Spanish-Portuguese synagogue is actually the first Jewish house of worship in Canada, and Holy Blossom is the second a few years later. The Spanish-Portuguese synagogue lends a Torah for the first services on Rosh Hashanah in 1856. When Holy Blossom was formed in 1856, it's a very Orthodox institution, really until 1920, when it joins the Reform movement. By the 1930s, when Rabbi Eisendrath is here, it becomes really a very Reform congregation, what's come to be called classical Reform, with an emphasis on universalism, on social justice. Well, Rabbi Plaut's contribution is huge. He, I guess, his lasting legacy would be the commentary, the Torah commentary, which he worked on really in his last years as the senior rabbi here and up through his early retirement years. And when what's come to be known as the Plaut commentary came out, it was recognized as a kind of classic work of scholarship that will endure for many years.
I got here only 60 years ago, and even then there were only 3 congregations. To think of only 3 Reform congregations even 60 years ago is rather remarkable. Today there are 26 Jewish congregations and fellowships across Canada, from Vancouver to Halifax.
Some would say that the American rabbis who've come up to Canada over the years, and there are many within the ranks of the liberal congregations, have influenced the congregations and the larger liberal and beyond that Jewish community of Toronto and Canada. I think it's the reverse. In fact, Canadian Jewry has influenced for the better the American rabbis who've come here, this one included.
Generally, we're closer to tradition. I think part of that is due to our history, that we have a more recent wave of immigration from Eastern Europe. I think as a result of that, you'll still find a wide diversity of belief and practice within different Reform congregations, but I think we're still dialoguing with the tradition in a very close way.
Reform Judaism played a critical role in the advancement of social issues, dare I say social policy, in Canada and within the Canadian Jewish community at large. The campaign against child poverty, cutting across Jewish denominations, Christian and Muslim denominations, all of whom were involved. Our congregation helped establish Casey House, the first hospice in Canada for persons living with HIV/AIDS.
We have initiated quite a few social action programs involving the community, involving interfaith relationships. Going back to the early 80s, where the Vietnamese boat people were an issue we were very active in. Also in the 80s, the founding of a food bank, an interfaith food bank, which is now the largest food bank in Mississauga and a very active one.
Every Reform congregation in Canada is doing its level best to get some progress in the nightmare of Darfur.
You can't live a decent life, and you can't live a decent Jewish life if you're only concerned for yourself and if you're not hurt by what you see out in the world. There is a common humanity which ties the Jews of Toronto to the Toronto Darfurian community, to the citizens of Darfur. We are all human beings, and that we're in this together.
There are many who are involved in other aspects of the larger community, who are major donors to the Federation, who sit on the boards and of our hospitals, who teach, who hold very high positions in economics in our community. So the Jewish people, and many Reform Jews in particular, are held in very high esteem and respect for what they bring to their lives, to the lives of the others around them. And the values of Reform Judaism are incorporated in what they do.
When I look at the peoples whose pictures are on the board, on the walls of the Federation and at other institutions, I note who's Jewish and I note who's Reform Jewish, and we are well represented. I think the leadership provided by those people has been a wonderful example for others to follow.
The reason why so many Reformed Jews are members of Arts of Canada is that Canadian Jews are Zionists. There's sociological analyses of why Canadian Jews are more Zionist than Jews in most other countries, but it seems to be anecdotally true. And my test is how many are members of Arts of Canada, but it's also how many people in Canada identify as Zionists, travel to Israel, hold Israel in their hearts.
We had a class with Leo Beck called Homiletics, that is the art of preaching. Now, I wasn't going to be a rabbi. I was just going to learn something about Judaism, but I was intrigued by this man. And I wanted to be there where Leo Beck was. There was an aura about him, something fascinating. It's like a special kind of charisma plus.
Kids growing up today have the Leo Beck Day School and Camp George and Kollel, all institutions of the Reformed Jewish community and part of the fabric of liberal Judaism in Toronto.
We're very proud of Camp George, which is up in Parry Sound, just celebrating its 10th anniversary, and I know many studies have shown that Jewish camping is a great contributor to Jewish leadership and to young people leading Jewish lives.
George is unique in that it has a very significant waterfront. I think the setting of camp generally in central Ontario is unique amongst all of the other camps. We're a kosher camp, so we have our own rabbis oversee kashrut during the summer. Is a great deal of learning done, but not in a formal classroom setting.
Leo Beck and Camp George provide opportunities for Jewish living 24 hours a day. The reality of pausing for blessing before and after every meal and ensuring that Jewish values and prayer are part of a daily school experience and a camp experience are messages which students don't choose, but they live.
I think the thing that's very unique and, or perhaps most unique about the Toronto Jewish community is the richness of its kind of Yiddishkeit and Jewish identity. While we hold fast that connection to our past, we have a very dynamic and progressive approach to Jewish life in the present and for the future.
My hope for 20 to 30 years from now is that my children and their children, God willing, will be involved in Reform Judaism and will find the same kind of spiritual enlightenment and community and camaraderie and friendship and spirituality that I found.
I think that being a Reform Jew in Toronto is just a great thing to be. It is a tremendously progressive community. It is a proud and vibrant Jewish community, it's a great place to be Jewish.